I don't sleep much when the wind turns east and the moon sits thin as a fingernail. That's when smoke comes back to me. Not the sight of it, but the taste. Bitter as old coffee left on the coals. Some nights I sit on the porch and listen to the prairie breathe, and I can hear a wagon wheel creak where there ain't no road anymore. It's a ghost sound, I reckon, born of the one mistake I still carry in my chest, like a pocket Bible with a bullet lodged inside. Folks call me Liam Tucker, or used to, back when there was more grit than gray in my beard. I ran with the law for a season, wore a star that cut a bright little scar in my shirt where the sun found it. These days, I keep sheep in a quiet gate, mending fence with a slow hand, talking to the dog like he's the last deacon in a church that's near empty. I ain't bitter. I'm just careful with what I have left. One good horse, a patch of land that drinks rain when it can, and a name I try to keep clean. But there's a wagon that won't leave me be. White ribbon, dusted with ash, flapping like a surrender flag in a hard wind. Men in dark coats, circling slow, like buzzards, drawing letters in the sky. And in the middle, a girl in a dress, too fine for the country, said to marry the wrong man because money is a louder preacher than love. I tell myself I did what I could. I tell myself the fire was already licking the canvas when I rode in, that the odds were crooked and the Lord himself rode with his head bowed that day. But when the night goes quiet enough to hear your own blood work, I know what keeps me awake. I came a breath too late, and a father died with my name in his mouth. The desert's an honest ledger. It don't forget what you owe. Every sunrise writes in light what midnight wrote in smoke, and the wind reads it back to you, slow as a prayer said by somebody who's scared to say amen. I keep a ring in a cigar tin, tarnished and warm from being turned over too many times. I keep it where I can hear it rattle against memory when the box bumps in my saddlebag. Some things a man sets down gentle, and some things sit him down first. This is the story of how I learned the difference, and why the desert still knows my name when I whisper hers. They say healing comes like rain after a long drought, soft, almost shy. Maybe so, but before the rain, there's thunder out past the buttes and a smell of iron riding the wind. Before the mercy, there's the moment you look your past in the eye and quit blinking. I remember the day, like the desert remembers rain, brief, but it left its mark deep. Sun hung low, burning red through the dust, and the horizon shimmered like a lie you want to believe. I was riding south of Abilene when I caught sight of smoke. Thick, wrong-colored, carrying the smell of fear more than firewood. By the time I reached that wedding wagon, the ribbons had turned to ash, and the air was screaming with bullets. I didn't think. Men like me don't have time for thinking when trouble's already singing. I kicked the bay hard, drew the Colt from habit, and rode straight into the storm. The Outlaws were Corrigan's boys, mean sons of the frontier, the kind that laughed when something screamed. I cut through smoke and gunpowder, and that's when I saw her. Lucy, she wasn't crying. No, sir. Her eyes were clear as creek water after a storm, her hands steady on that scattergun, like she'd been born knowing what to do with it. Her white dress was torn, streaked with soot, and the lace caught fire when she swung around to aim. I still see that flicker, gold and wild against her cheek, the kind of beauty that don't fade, even when it should. We fought side by side, two strangers bound by chaos. When the last gun fell silent, all that was left was her breath and mine, hanging in the smoke. The men who'd started it lay still, and the man who was supposed to marry her, Jeremiah Blackwell, was nowhere in sight. She looked at me, eyes wide, voice small but steady. "He sold us out," she said. "Them outlaws came for me, and he led 'em straight to it. Her pa didn't make it. I remember pulling him from the wreck, the gold watch in his hand still ticking, though his heart had quit. He tried to shield her, that much was clear, and when she dropped to her knees beside him, whispering, 'I'll find justice, Pa,' the desert itself went quiet. I told her we had to move. Smoke draws more wolves than light ever could." She didn't argue, just stood up, shoulders squared, jaw set like a lawman's. There's something sacred in the way a woman stands when she's got nothing left to lose. I felt it then, deep as a wound that don't bleed, the kind that just keeps burning. We rode west, away from the fire, her veil catching the wind like a ghost flag. Behind us, the wagon smoldered, and the desert took back what men had stolen. She didn't look back once. I did. Twice. And I swear I heard her pa's voice, riding the smoke, whispering what I still hear now. Don't let her fall into the same hands that built this hell. Maybe that was the start of redemption. Or maybe it was just another road to regret. But when I looked at her through that dying light, I knew one thing for certain. Some fires don't fade. They follow you. We found shelter that night in an old trading post, long abandoned, walls half-eaten by wind and time. The roof creaked with every gust, and the lantern flame danced like it was scared of the dark. Lucy sat by the doorway, boots muddy, shotgun laid across her lap. I watched her fingers tremble, not from fear, but from holding too tight to everything she'd lost. I wanted to say something, maybe about her father, or the way the stars looked cleaner after fire. But words don't come easy when guilt sits between you and the truth. So I poured her a tin cup of coffee and said the only thing I could. "Sun'll rise soon. We best be gone before it finds us." She nodded slow, eyes on the horizon through a broken window. "They'll come," she said, "Blackwell's men. They'll come for what's left." I told her I'd seen men like him before, born rich, but hungry in all the wrong ways. He wanted land, not love, power, not peace. And now, he wanted her back, not for her heart, but for the deed her pa died protecting. By midday, we hit the high trail north, keeping to the brush, letting the canyon swallow our tracks. I could feel the storm coming, not in the sky, but behind us, hoofbeats faint and angry. It was Victor Corrigan's riders, Corrigan's kin by blood and worse by nature. They wanted Lucy alive, me dead or worse. We made it to Josiah's Ridge by sundown, a preacher once, before bullets outnumbered prayers. He took us in, silent but sure, eyes heavy with things he'd buried deeper than bones, while Lucy slept by the stove. Josiah looked at me long. "You still running from something, Liam?" "Don't reckon I ever stopped," I said. He nodded, poured whiskey into 2 chipped cups, and said what truth always says. "You can't outrun a ghost if you keep feeding it." Come morning, we heard the riders. Dust trails, 5 or 6 men moving like snakes through dry grass. I told Josiah to keep her safe, and I took the hill. There's a kind of peace in knowing you might die doing one thing right. They came hard. Rifles barked, horses screamed, air thick with that old copper smell. Lucy fired from the cabin door. One clean shot dropped the first man cold, and when the last of them fell, silence poured down like rain. She came to me then, hands black with powder, eyes wide and wild. "I ain't scared no more," she whispered, and I saw it. The fire in her had turned from pain to purpose. That's when I knew the past had caught up, not just with us, but with me. 'Cause in her courage, I saw the face of every mistake I'd ever ridden away from. And I knew redemption wasn't about saving her life. It was about earning mine back. We buried the last of them behind Josiah's ridge, said no prayers, just let the dust take what was owed. The preacher stood quiet, hat in hand, and I could tell he saw something familiar in me. That old weariness a man carries when he's outlived his reckoning. Lucy carved her father's initials into a cedar cross, pressed her palm against it, and didn't cry. Some grief ain't made for tears. It just settles, like ash after a long fire. We rode out before dawn. The world felt cleaner somehow. Cool air off the river. Sky painted soft with pink and gold. She rode beside me, straight-backed, jaw set, her hair loose beneath the hat I'd given her. There was a steadiness in her now, a kind of quiet strength that made the morning look less lonely. We aimed for Fort Worth, where Blackwell sat hiding behind law papers and men who'd forgotten what law meant. I'd sent word ahead to Judge Finnegan, an old ally from the Ranger days, the kind of man who still believed justice was more than ink and rope. He promised to meet us at the old rail yard by sundown. The trail was long, and time moves strange when a man's heart starts hoping again. We talked some, mostly about her father's ranch, the orchard he planted, how she dreamt of rebuilding it. When she laughed, it startled me. Sounded like a creek coming back after drought, soft and alive. Made me remember what peace used to feel like, but peace don't ride alone for long. We were 3 miles out of town when I heard it, the cry of hawks, cut short by gunfire. Blackwell's men again. They'd been waiting in the draw. One bullet grazed my shoulder, spun me near out the saddle. Lucy's horse reared, and I saw fear flash through her eyes, not for herself, but for me. We made the canyon rim just before sundown, the bridge ahead hanging by frayed ropes over dry ravine. I told her to ride on. She refused. "You ain't dying here, Liam," she said, voice steady as steel. I smiled. Couldn't help it. Wasn't planning to, ma'am. We cut the ropes just as the riders hit the edge. The bridge gave way, crashing like thunder, dust rising up to swallow the screams. When it cleared, there was nothing left but silence and a sunset so red it looked like God's own warning. We reached Fort Worth by nightfall, both bloodied, both still breathing. Judge Finnegan was waiting, lantern in hand, badge glinting beneath his coat. He took one look at us and said, "You two just rode through hell." "Maybe," I told him, "but hell don't look so bad when you ride out with someone worth saving." That night, Lucy sat by the window of the inn, staring at the street lamps, flickering like memories. She asked me, quiet-like, "You think a soul can start over?" I told her the truth, the kind I learned too late. Only if it quits looking backward. The dawn that followed didn't bring peace, not yet, but it brought light enough to see the faces of the men who'd hunted us. Judge Finnegan gathered them, papers signed and sealed, while the sheriff took Jeremiah Blackwell out the back of the saloon, hands bound, pride broken clean in two. The man didn't beg. He just looked at me with that hollow grin, the kind that knows its own end. "World ain't kind to heroes, Tucker," he said. I told him, that maybe it's time we stopped trying to be heroes and started learning to be men again. After that, the desert grew quiet in me. No thunder, no ghosts, just a long, slow exhale I've been holding for half my life. Lucy took back her father's deed, and I watched her hands tremble. Not from fear this time, but from something gentler. Freedom, maybe, or forgiveness. Hard to tell them apart when both feel like sunlight after years of rain. We stayed on that land through the summer, building fences, mending roofs, letting the prairie decide if it would keep us. Nights were long, soft with crickets and the smell of mesquite. Sometimes she'd hum old hymns her mama used to sing, and I'd just sit there listening, pretending I wasn't falling in love all over again. She never asked me to stay, and I never promised I would. That's the way of folks like us. Too much road behind to trust forever. Too much hope left not to try. Still, when autumn came and the wind turned cold, she looked at me one night across the fire and said, "Maybe we ain't broken, Liam. Maybe we're just bruised in the right places." I reckon that's the truest thing I ever heard. Years have gone by since then. The house stands firm now, painted by the same sunrise that once burned our past away. She keeps a rose bush by the porch, stubborn enough to bloom through frost. I keep my old badge in a drawer, not to remember what I was, but to remind me what not to become again. Some nights, I still hear the wagon wheels turning, soft far off, like a memory refusing to die. But it don't hurt the way it used to. Now it sounds more like a prayer answered slow, the kind the Lord whispers in his own time. And when the wind crosses the desert just right, I swear it carries her laughter, gentle, unafraid, full of the kind of grace a man only earns once. Maybe love ain't about holding on tight, not out here where everything drifts away sooner or later. Maybe it's about learning to let go gentle and still find your way home.